You've done your MBA from Harvard Business School.
Two of my friends actually at Harvard wrote me $200,000 check saying, we know you're a good guy, go start. If you ask me in 2005, did I ever think I'll be a unicorn founder? I was not even thinking of starting up.
So Nikhil Kamath recently stated that
if you're 25 and going to MBA college today, you must be some kind of idiot.
Do you agree with this statement, and what do you have to say about this?
Neither is Nikhil Kamath 25, nor does he have an MBA.
So let's assume that someone who's watching this is in their 12th standard now, and he wants to decide that whether to study undergrad in India or outside India.
Now, if you do a 2 crore, 3 crore kind of an undergrad program abroad, you come back and start in India at 12 lakhs and 15 lakhs and 20 lakhs. How many years will you have to work to pay off that? For the cost of spending 1 year in Chicago, you're getting a 4-year experience in India with the exact same degree.
What about the foreign exposure that I will get if I go to UK or if I go to US actually?
If you want that, then do that. But you'll have to spend 2.5 crores for the US and 1.5 crores for the UK.
Hi Ashwin, how are you doing?
Great, Kushal. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. It's always a pleasure and honor to host you, to meet you. I remember last time I'd come to your house and had an amazing time giving the book to you as well. So how have things changed in the last 2-3 years? What's new?
Well, lots has changed. First of all, by the way, lots has changed at your end as well. So congratulations on all of your success in your new avatar. For us as the Eruditus group, earlier we were only doing online education. But today we're actually working with foreign universities to bring their campuses to India. So it's a very, very different initiative. It's still the core mission is the same, making high quality education accessible and affordable. But now working with undergrad, postgrad, working with setting up real estate, career services, all of that is a completely different skill set, muscle memory. So yeah, that's what we've been spending. We're setting up 7. 4 in Mumbai, 2 in Bengaluru, and 1 in NCR in Gurgaon. So very excited. And 2 of those are actually top 100 ranked. So University of New South Wales in Bengaluru and Bristol. One is ranked 20th in the world, one is ranked 50th in the world. So super exciting.
That's amazing. And let's talk about your CA journey. First, I wanted to understand, you've done your CA, you've done your MBA from Harvard Business School. You run India's largest EdTech company, Eruditus and Emeritus. I think you're the best person to talk anything about education. So this podcast is going to be for someone who is going to apply for his undergrad or postgrad, and we are going to solve all their doubts about whether to study in India, whether to study outside India, and what is the ROI in spending money, etc. But before that, how did your CA journey help you in your current day-to-day life? And can you just walk me through your CA and MBA days, and then we'll take it forward?
Great. CA actually, rewinding back, it was 3 bleak years. The good news is it was only 3 years. I managed to finish inter and final in 1 attempt, get a rank, all of that. But it was difficult, as anybody who's done this CA. But CA gives you skills that you use throughout your life. Like today, even I'm running a EdTech company, it's global. Right? You're working with foreign universities. You have to read joint venture agreements which run into 80 pages. You have to look at tax structuring. And as a CA, you learn that. Right? So it's very, very helpful. The language of business ultimately is numbers. CA teaches you that, of course, in a very hard, brutal way. It's very tough. But then the grounding is solid for the rest of your life. But having said that, would I have been doing what I'm doing today with just a CA? The answer probably would have been no. Right? Because in my MBA, what happened is, of course, MBA from Harvard Business School. I mean, that was a dream come true. But you see, MBA gives you something, I always say this, like career capital. What makes a person's career? It is intellectual capital plus brand capital plus social capital. So intellectual capital plus brand capital plus social capital equals career capital. Intellectual capital, what you know. But that's not enough. Right? Brand capital, where do you get your degree from? What is your personal brand? What does your LinkedIn look like? How many people reference you, etc. And network, social capital. Harvard Business School gave me the second, to the brand capital and the social capital, in addition to intellectual capital. Right? So in my first company, Travel Guru, I came back to India right after my MBA, and I was raising capital, right? But very often the heads of the VCs were from Harvard or from Stanford. And so getting into having that conversation with them, and of course, when you say I'm an MBA from Harvard Business School, that's the brand capital. They say, okay, at least they will meet you. They won't chase you away. So that really helped me a lot. But I think the biggest takeaway in my MBA is it made me dream to be an entrepreneur. I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. In fact, After doing 2 years of an MBA at Harvard, I had a loan of about 1 crore. In those days, that time the rupee was at 50.
Which year are we talking about?
2005 is when I finished. And I had an offer from McKenzie in New York City. This would have paid me 175,000 US dollars. So somebody who had at that time $200,000 of debt, right, and had an offer from McKinsey in New York City, $175,000, to leave that and to come back to India, where for the next 12 months I didn't get a salary and I didn't have startup funding. It took me a year before, eventually at that time it was Westbridge, now it's Peak, funded us. That courage, the courage of conviction, came because of Harvard and my MBA. Right? Because I was already interacting in my class with people who had started and sold their company. So Alexander Samba, a classmate, Rocket Internet, had already sold his company to eBay for 75 million. Rishad Premji was a classmate. Two of my friends actually at Harvard wrote me $200,000 check saying, we know you're a good guy, go start. Right? And actually that helped me start. So that power of that brand, power of that network, and it kindled that fire to dream. In fact, Kushal, that's what a good MBA should do to you, right? It is not just what you learn in your books. Very often people think MBA is not required because everybody knows the concepts. No, it is that when you interact with those people, faculty, your students, that whole ecosystem, it makes you do things that, if you ask me in 2005, did I ever think I'll be a unicorn founder? I was not even thinking of starting up. So I credit Harvard and my MBA a lot for that journey.
So Nikhil Kamath recently stated that if you are 25 and going for an MBA, you must be some kind of an idiot. Do you agree with this statement? And what do you have to say about this?
Look, neither is Nikhil Kamath 25, nor does he have an MBA. And I'm just saying it in jest. But now it's become very fashionable. Because maybe Bill Gates dropped out of school. So for example, when I was at Harvard Business School, Mark Zuckerberg was across the river and he also dropped out. So now you take these one or two examples that put a very nice fancy story that, college dropout means startup success. But the truth, data, again, coming from Harvard Business School, Harvard Business School MBAs are 6 times more likely to be successful with startups than the general population. Actually, take an Indian example. How many unicorns does India have today?
108.
108 approximately. At least 80 or 90 of them are IIT, IIM, ISB, Harvard, Stanford, etc. founders. So if an MBA was useless for startups, why would that be the case? It should be hardly a few. So data does not back up what Nikhil Kamath is saying. Look, of course, for somebody who doesn't have an MBA, it's very easy to say an MBA is useless. But my own story, I'm an MBA. I know that I would not even be an entrepreneur. I would not be on your show today if not for that MBA. I think an MBA is very valuable. But look, the nuance point, perhaps what he's saying is MBA from where? What are you taught in that MBA? Right? So there are many kinds of MBAs, right? You can come from a tier 2 institution, which is bookish. That is a waste of money. But an MBA from the right institution, right? For the right person, not everybody needs an MBA. That also I'll admit. But for many people who are not sure where the career is going, who don't have the skill sets, an MBA is a broad education that can set you up in the right way. So I would say, look, an MBA is still very, very relevant, but you'll have to decide which institution is it right for you.
So I think he was also trying to mean in a manner that if you are starting up before doing an MBA, you learn more things by doing something rather than learning from a business school on how to do a business. Like it's more like, let's say if I'm doing a business, I learn more by doing it rather than learning from a business school on how to run a business.
See, that's true, right? But that is if you know what your business idea, startup idea is, and you already are very passionate about it, and you go in that direction, then that makes a lot of sense. That's what I'm saying. MBA is not for everybody. Yeah. But very often, I counsel students all the time. Very often they're like, I don't know what I want to do. So what should I do? And very often today, people want to start up because they believe that they'll become a unicorn. The truth is actually further than that, right? In fact, in India today, I don't know how many DPIT registered startups do we have?
I don't know. I think in lakhs, 6-7 lakhs.
6-7 lakhs. Yeah. 6-7 lakhs registered startups in India and 108 unicorns. So the percentage of becoming a unicorn is like 0.00 something percent, right? So people have to understand there is hit and miss in startups as well. But if you're very clear, see, today you should not start up because you want to make money. You should start up because you're passionate about solving a problem and you care deeply about it. For such a person, an MBA is not required. Go do it. And you will learn a lot. A startup also teaches you a lot. Very often people don't have that burning problem to solve. They just want to start. right? They don't know which sector, they don't know, what kind of a product, etc. For them, I would say a broad-based MBA is helpful. But even an MBA, Kushal, if I were to say, look, in India, very often, right after finishing your undergrad, we go do an MBA. There's not much value in that. You should have at least 2 to 3 years of work experience so that when you do an MBA, when you're talking about difficult conversations, when you're talking about strategy, you should have some understanding of business. So do an MBA. If you want real ROI from an MBA, also do it with a few years of work experience.
So let's assume that someone who's watching this is in their 12th standard now and he wants to decide that whether to study undergrad in India or outside India. The first question that a parent has for their students is also कि मैं मेरे बच्चे को इंडिया में पढ़ाई करने दूँ या मैं फॉरेन भेजूँ. How do we answer that question and how to decide whether I should study in India or I should go outside for my undergrad?
So by the way, it can be a he or a she or
Yeah.
they. But it's a very good question to be asking, because if you ask this question 5 years ago, very often this lure of studying abroad was very, very big. Today, the world has changed. Again, you look at people, students who are, what does it cost? Let's look at ROI. What does it cost to go and do an undergrad in the US? You're talking about tuition fee of at least $40,000 per year. So that's about 36 lakhs. Plus living expenses of at least $20,000, so another 18 lakhs. So about 55 to 60 lakh. Okay, let's say an Indian student will live frugally. So 60 will become 50. But 50 lakhs a year, 4 years. So 2 crores. Now, for that to make sense, you must be at least earning a salary of 1 crore plus over 4-5 years, because again, in the US, you have living expenses. If you get a job after finishing your US undergrad, then it makes sense. Today, 50 to 60% of students, not just from India, anywhere in the world who are going to the US, are coming back home. There is no job. Because US companies have been told, don't hire people on their F1, OPT, STEM, etc. So they are preferring to hire local citizens, residents. So now if you do a 2 crore, 3 crore kind of an undergrad program abroad, you come back and start in India at 12 lakhs and 15 lakhs and 20 lakhs. How many years will you have to work to pay off that? See, in the US system, why do the US undergrad work? There, the government funds them. The government funds their entire undergrad education, postgrad education at 3% interest. This is called Title IV funding. But here, the mother, father is taking a loan, 10, 12% interest, foreign exchange. Look at what's happening to the rupee. So that cost arbitrage is not there. Now, luckily, the good news is that with foreign universities being allowed to come to India, by the way, only the top 500 ranked foreign universities are allowed to come to India. Now that 2 crore USD, if you go to Illinois Tech, right, their average fee for undergrad is about 16 lakhs per year, but they're giving up to a 5 lakh scholarship. So you say 10 lakhs approximately. You can finish it in 40 lakhs. Living expenses in India are not so bad. Maybe it's 50, 60 lakhs for a 4-year undergrad program, which is 1/4 of the cost of what you would have paid had you gone to the US. But the second thing I also want to mention here is that in this 4-year undergrad program, you can spend up to 1 year at Illinois Tech in Chicago, included in the India fee. And 1 year cost is 40 lakhs if you go to Chicago. So in essence, for the cost of spending 1 year in Chicago, you're getting a 4-year experience in India with the exact same degree. Illinois Tech, Mumbai is not giving you the degree. Illinois Tech, Chicago is giving you the degree. So now, after doing this, if your starting salary is 20, 25, 30 lakhs, so ROI equation looks very different, right? So one of the things that people have to ask themselves is, actually, let's take one more step back, right? Where do you want to build your career? If today you believe, see, if I look at the world today and for the next 20, 30 years, very often, by the way, students make a decision about, okay, I finish this program, what is my salary? But we have to think a little more longer term, right? Where do I want to build my career? See, I went to the US, did my MBA. Why did I come back to India? Because I felt, and now proven so, that India is the place to be for the next 20, 30 years. Now, this was in 2005. But if you look at it today, look at the world around us, India is perhaps the most brightest economy in the world. So if somebody says, I want to build my career in India, then study in India. Right? Maybe you can go abroad, get some experience, do a semester, or even go to abroad, whatever, it's fine. But I would say study in India, build your networks in India, build your brand in India, because this is your future. If you're very clear you want to go abroad, that's a different ROI. Where people get stuck is they go abroad, have that 2 crore, 3 crore cost, get no jobs, come back to India, and now you're earning 15, 20 lakhs. That's the worst place to be.
So tell me one thing, like there are a lot of countries where Indian students are going outside India and going to study. So I want to break it down. So let's say I want to break it down country-wise in terms of what would be the return on investment and what's happening in these countries as far as the Indian students are concerned. US, UK, Canada, Singapore, and Germany. And the reason I took these 5 countries is because as per data, these are the top 4 5 countries where a lot of Indian students are going for pursuing their undergrad as well as postgrad. So what's the ROI in all these countries, and what's happening in these countries?
See, number one destination has always been the US. But now with a 50% visa rejection rate, that is questionable. Number two has been the UK, then Canada, Australia. But even Canada and Australia has visa caps for foreign students. Canada's visa rejection now is about 55%. Right?
Why are they rejecting so many visas?
For geopolitical reasons, see, some of the students who are going were from very poor academic backgrounds. There were some universities in Canada also accepting certain students, which one would say should not have happened, right? But if you take Australia or Canada, for example, their housing prices they say are going up because international students are coming. It's not just India; they're rejecting across the board. They want jobs for locals, right? So this whole globalization that has happened over the last 20, 30 years has become a little more inward looking. People are looking at their own people and their interests first. Same with US as well. In fact, in the UK, the Prime Minister has told the UK universities, we don't want more students coming to the UK. You go set up campuses abroad so that you can reach more students. So this is a trend across the board. Singapore also. Today you go to Singapore, you get a degree there. There's no jobs. You're not going to get a work permit. There are very few markets outside of India, maybe the Middle East still to some extent, which are really encouraging immigrants to come to get a job and then have a pathway to citizenship. There are very, very few markets. Markets like Germany, etc., are emerging, but they're still very small in terms of numbers, less than 5%. The biggest numbers, 25% is US, 25% is UK, and then Australia and Canada put together is a further 25%. And then it's a very long tail. ROI. US actually for undergrad is the worst ROI. Because not only is it expensive for living, and it is a 4-year undergrad. UK is a 3-year undergrad, right? So now you take US ka $40,000 fee, it's over 4 years. UK is about £25,000, but 3 years. And UK living expenses, depending on if it's a big city, small city, etc., you can do that. Also, most universities don't give much scholarship for undergrad. By the way, when it comes to PG, also postgrad, UK is a 1-year master's program usually. US predominantly still 2 years. So there also the ROI is worse. So what I often counsel students is, look, if you're going to an MIT, Harvard, Princeton, or the top UC, Berkeley, whatever, that still makes sense in the US. But if you're going to a tier 2, tier 3 college, then you might as well study in India and go there for your master's, or figure out some other country which is cheaper. In fact, even today, when we look at the study abroad market from India, about 700,000 to 1 million students go abroad every year. 90% are going for masters, because masters you do 1 year and you get a job. ROI is better. So Indians, by the way, are very ROI driven. They've done this math already. That 10% who go to undergrad abroad are usually from well-to-do families. So they have the luxury of spending crores for an undergrad education, and may not matter so much if they get a job or not, or maybe they want to migrate there. So the ROI for undergrad in the US is the weakest. In the UK, it is better. UK has a visa rule that if you spend a year in the UK, you can actually work for 18 months. Australia, you have to spend 2 years to get that same thing. So ROI-wise, UK actually is still quite favorable. Earlier, it used to be that you can get 24 months of work. Now they've reduced it to 18 months. So there also you can get a sense of the direction in which the government is going.
So let's do an interesting thing. So what's the total cost for undergrad if someone wants to do it in US, UK, Canada, and Australia? And what's the average package that they can receive in all these countries after they do their undergrad? And I want it in rupees, so it'll be easier for us to understand.
So US, very simply put, I think a 4-year undergrad would easily cost about 2 to 2.5 crores. Okay, it's very simple math with living expenses. The average undergrad, now again, I'm saying average. There will be some universities that are way higher. There are some universities that are much lower. So 2.5 crores would be the average, assuming no scholarship. Canada, by the way, is somewhat similar. Canada and US are somewhat similar. 4-year undergrad and similar costs. Average starting salary in the US for undergrad is about $60,000 to $70,000, which in Indian terms about 60 lakhs. So you spend 2.5 crores, you will earn about 60 lakhs. Your savings in the US on that 60 lakhs maybe is about 20 lakhs a year, because living expenses are high. So it will take you 10, 12 years to pay it off. Okay, US and Canada, similar. If you go to the UK, the average fee for undergrad per year is about 25,000 pounds. So that's about approximately 30 lakhs, but it is a 3-year undergrad. So it's about 90 lakhs with living expenses about 1.2 to 1.5 crores. So it's far more affordable. There also starting salaries are similar. So you will still start with about a 60 lakh type of a salary. So your payoff is about, and you'll save about 20 lakhs. So your payoff is about 7 to 8 years. So UK, Australia have far better ROI on education, primarily driven by the fact that undergrad is 3 years. But isme now you have to do the estimated monetary value, EMV, right? Because now the US package, which I gave you of say 60 lakhs, if only 50% of the students are getting it, so please probability weight it. So actual EMV is 30 lakhs. Actual saving then is hardly, say 10 lakhs, 5 lakhs. Payoff period can be 20, 30 years. So is it really, is a US undergrad education for somebody who is budget conscious, which is a lot of India, is it still having the same attraction as it used to have before?
So the solution for these parents would be something like a foreign university coming to India, and then the cost will also be lower, and at the same time you get the degree from that foreign university itself.
See, there are two kinds of students. One who says, come what may, I want to go work in the US or UK. So they want to migrate, right? And there's a student who says, I want the learning, I want the best learning, but I will come back to India eventually, maybe 3-5 years, I'll pay off my loan, whatever, I'll come back. There are two kinds of students. For both, actually, I will give you my answer is that actually doing something in India and then going abroad is better, right? So first one who wants to migrate, take the example of Illinois Tech. Why don't you do 3 years in India? Your cost of doing that is 10 lakhs per year, so 30 lakhs. Only for the 4th year, you transfer to the US campus. And for that 1 year, you pay that fee of 40, 50 lakhs. So your overall degree now has become about 75 to 1 crore versus 2.5 crores. And you get the same job, or you don't get the job. And if you have to come back to India, also, you've now spent about 80 lakhs to a crore versus 2.5 crores. So it is a far safer bet, right? So you start in India, do 3 years, go there and do 1 year. UK में भी वही कर सकते हैं आप. 2 साल यहाँ करो India में, right? So if you take Bristol or University of Aberdeen or take University of York, you can do 2 years in India. So here the India fee cost is only 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs. With scholarship, maybe it's even 15 lakhs. 3rd year, you go to UK. So there you pay that 30,000 pounds, 25 to 30,000 pounds, which is approximately about 40 lakhs with living expenses. So now your UK degree that is 1 crore, 1.25 crores has become 60 lakhs. You get a job there, your payback period has come down by half. Or worst case, you come back to India, but now you spend 60 lakhs, you've got 1 year international experience, and you can work in India. So this is for the migrating audience. It's a far safer bet because today you're not getting jobs. That's the biggest thing, right? So if you're getting jobs, you can still say, okay, I have a 10-year ROI, it's fine. But then if you come back and your parents have this loan, how do you deal with it? For a student who wants to build a career in India, by the way, I would say that look at, of course, if you get an IIT or an IIM and you're in that level, and that's what you want to do, and we'll talk about IITs and IIMs also, then that's a very good thing because the ROI on the placement after that is still very good, right? Similarly for an ISB or few other institutions. But going to a tier 2, tier 3, what is the ROI and what is the quality of the education? So I would still say then do it at a foreign university in India, right? Because they are giving you 50% foreign faculty. They're giving you, by the way, you can even go to a foreign university for 1 semester and come back, and that's included in your India tuition. So in that 10 lakhs, you can go to Bristol, spend 6 months and come back. You can go to University of Liverpool, spend 6 months, get that global exposure and come back, included in your India tuition for a slight nominal charge maybe. Of course, living expenses extra. So you have the best of both worlds, right? So you start in India, it's much more affordable. It's a world, and the degree comes from a top 500 ranked university. It's from the foreign university. If you want to continue in India, continue, get some foreign experience, come back with a semester exchange. If you want to transfer there, finish there, get a job there, you can do that as well. So it's the best of both worlds.
So in this case, let's say if I do it from Bristol in India, okay, so University of Bristol, but in India right now, versus if someone is doing their undergrad from Bristol in the UK, 10 years down the line, how would the person be different in the sense what would the person like what would be a difference in terms of a student who's doing undergrad from India from the same university versus someone who's doing it from UK from the same university? What would be the 10-year picture?
See, the curriculum is the same. The degree is the same. So you're doing a bachelor's in economics in Mumbai or bachelor's in economics at Bristol, the degree is the same, right? The curriculum is also the same. In Mumbai, about 50% of the Bristol faculty will be international faculty from Bristol and from other places. When you go to Bristol, yes, 100% of faculty will be international faculty. The fee we spoke about, in Mumbai fee, while Bristol's fee is at 15 lakhs, they do have a 5 lakh scholarship available for the inaugural class. So 10 lakhs into 30 lakhs, your fee is done. At Bristol, if you go, you're going to spend about a crore plus living expenses. Most importantly, if you want to build your career in India, then I would say go to Bristol in India because you're getting a world class curriculum, but rooted in the Indian context. Your guest lecturers, your industry projects, your recruitment, placement will all be based in India. Right? Of course, there will be a lot of foreign companies as well who will come because they already have a tie-up with Bristol, but a large majority will be Indian companies. So if your future looks like it is India and that's where you want to build, go to Bristol, India. But if you think you want to be more international, you want to work and migrate in the UK, either go to Bristol, UK, or start here in India, do 2 years. The curriculum is the same, right? So you can do 2 years here and then transfer as well. So that's how people should think about it. If you ask me about ROI question, because this is very important, I would think now, see, earlier we never had this option. So it was binary, India, abroad. Today we have options. The best thing about this is you have options. Kids today have options. Parents have options. So the best option is start in India with a top university. Bristol is a top 50 university. And then decide whether this is what you want to do or you want to transfer abroad. By the way, even after doing 2 years in Bristol, if you want to go to any other UK university, you have a UK transcript. Right? If you go to York or a Bristol or a Liverpool, it's a UK transcript for your first 2 years. That is more easily acceptable at a Oxford or a Cambridge or an Imperial if you wanted to transfer. So there are many, many, many benefits of starting and finishing in India or starting in India and finishing at Bristol.
So a lot of people also go to these universities for the foreign exposure that they want. So if let's say a parent is sending their child to US, they want that child to have a 4-year experience in the US, which will give them like a good international exposure. That is missing in these kind of places, right? So what do you have to say
So
on that?
yes and no. See, like I said, each one of the foreign universities that are in India, whether it is the University of Aberdeen from Scotland, or University of York, Liverpool, or Bristol from UK, or Illinois Tech from US, or for that matter, University of New South Wales and University of Victoria from Australia. You can go and spend a semester or two on their campuses. So you can still get, while you start in India, you're paying India tuition, you have the flexibility of going and spending a semester and coming back. You also have the flexibility of transferring there as a student. Of course, there you have to pay the home country tuition fee. So you have that exposure to global, study, global environment is built into it. But if you want all 4 years to be global, then you might as well go to the US. Your investment will be 2.5 crores versus say 40, 50 lakhs. For some people, that is okay. For vast majority of Indians, that is a luxury that we can ill afford, right? So each according to their own.
So are these offline universities now which you are partnering and launching the campuses in India, and where is this happening in India?
So two of them are in Bangalore. So University of New South Wales, which is a top 20 university. By the way, before I answer this, let me ask you, how many top 100 universities, top 100 globally ranked foreign universities are there in India?
That's a tough one. I think.
It's actually an
I've-
easy one.
Sorry?
It's an easy one. 0.
Oh yeah, actually, I mean, I was not able to think of any name.
The IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi are 123, 126, and of course, excellent institutions. But now with foreign universities, we have 4. So what I'm trying to say is that people have to change their mindset. कि पहले mindset ये था कि if I want a good education, I have to pack my bags and go abroad. Today, you can be in India and get access to the world's best degree. This is a fundamental change, and credit has to be given to the government for this policy. Credit equally has to be given to this university. See, a UNSW, we work with them very closely, right? They are thinking very deeply, how do I deliver what I have in Sydney in Bangalore? Which is not just teaching. How do I get so they've appointed a provost, right? A very senior lady. They've appointed their foreign faculty who will be coming and teaching. They're looking at every single part of the curriculum and say, okay, I do this in Sydney. How do I do this here? I'll take the example of Liverpool. Liverpool is setting up a biomedical facility, which will also be used for research because they're teaching a program in biomedical sciences, right? Why did they choose Whitefield and Bangalore? Liverpool in the UK, that's a lot of research with Unilever. In fact, every year they spend 80 million pounds 80 million pounds. So if I put it to you in rupees, about 1,000 crores on research with just Unilever. Out of that, about 5,000 crores turnover Unilever has generated. In Whitefield, they are 10 minutes away from the India R&D lab of Unilever. So these universities are great, not just because they teach from their research. Right? At Harvard, Kushal, what was my greatest learning? I was not learning from somebody who read a book and taught what was in the book. I was learning from the person who wrote the book. And that makes a big difference because that experience and the depth of knowledge that they can convey. Bill Solomon, my entrepreneurship professor, today also I will remember that man. He's still alive, by the way, but I remember him because he was, by the way, an advisor to about 1,000 startups, probably invested in 200, 300 startups as an angel. He created his own entrepreneurship ecosystem with Howard Stevenson in HBS. You learn from him. Or do you learn from somebody who's read his book and is telling you this is the framework that Bill Solomon taught? Right? So that's the difference. So Liverpool, biomedical, very exciting. They bring in that. Bristol has built a 1 billion pound, I'll put it again, 12,000 crore AI supercomputer.
What's this?
AI supercomputer. I mean, it's a computing depth and abilities far more than what most commercial use cases will be there. But for academic research, it's allowed to be used. The government of Bristol also, the mayor, the municipality, etc., they've also funded part of it. As a student of Bristol's Mumbai campus, if you had a read, and by the way, if you're doing computer science or large data models, you can have access to use that computing facility. Imagine faculty also who can do research based on that. In fact, they're already doing some work now, I think, with Tata Consultancy Services, where they're trying to leverage that for research, not for commercial purposes, right? So the kind of infrastructure R&D, we always think of a university as you sit in a classroom and you learn. But universities are teaching institutions, but also research institutions, consulting institutions. You take MIT. MIT's annual budget is 6 billion. Okay, it's 40, no, now we 90, 54,000 crores. So just for a moment, think about it. One university in the US, top university, 54,000 crores is its operating budget. But of that, 35 to 40,000 crores comes from government for research. So that's why they can get the best faculty and pay them. Now that ecosystem is being built in India slowly, right? Because all of these people will do research with top faculty, with top companies, globally and here. So why will foreign universities succeed? Because they will also attract the top faculty. Faculty want to teach, but they also want to do research. Half of the faculty are global faculty. And of course, they're teaching curriculum that has been tried and tested. And by the way, the curriculum there is not, how do I say, the old style of curriculum that our Indian universities are still teaching. Very practical, take Victoria University. They teach on a block model basis. So 6 weeks, you will learn one subject. So take finance, which I know is your favorite subject. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you'll have a 3-hour block giving the concepts. But Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you have to apply that to real world projects. That's the teaching methodology. Now, Indian universities, we can't do this. In one semester, you teach 5 subjects. End of it, you have an exam. But the world doesn't run on exams anymore. It's about the skill sets you can demonstrate, right? So all of these are the innovations that these universities are bringing to India that today, like I said, we now have, I think, 4 top 100 ranked foreign universities. The way I see this is, look, I have children who are 12 and 10. My daughter is 12, my son is 10. In my zamana, best education means go abroad. Right? That is changing. I think now for my kids, I think if they ask me for advice on where they should study, I would say, no, do your undergrad in India. Maybe even masters. But if you were doing very deep research, etc., at master's level, then maybe still that ecosystem in the US, for example, or UK is still very strong. But for most people, undergrad in India today gives you, with foreign universities, the doors are open for the world's best education.
So you're saying you will send your kids also to these universities in India itself?
See, as a parent, that's what I would do.
But why not?
As a kid, they have to make their choices. So if they're watching this, let them know that they'll have to make their choices. But that would be my advice to them. See, what I'm telling today is what I believe.
But would you not want them to study at something like a Harvard, Princeton, Yale for their undergrad, or a Chicago?
See, if you get into a Harvard, Princeton, Yale, please go. Right? I mean, those universities, how many universities are there in the US? 4,000. How many universities are there in the world? 20,000 universities. I'm not counting institutes. See, every year, Kushal, 60 million students graduate. 60 million across the world. How many graduate from the top 500 universities? Only less than 1%. तो आप जो हार्वर्ड, येल, प्रिंसटन का उदाहरण दे रहे हैं ना, this is the minorities exception. So if somebody gets in, please go. See, these are great places. That's a great. It will change your world. It changed my world. Harvard changed my life. But what about somebody who's going to tier 2, tier 3 in the US, mainly to get a job? That is questionable whether that is anymore required.
So you've partnered
And
with.
by the way, who knows? The next 5-7 years, maybe some of those universities whose names you took may have a campus in India.
Yeah.
Today it looks like a far stretch of the imagination. But if anything that I have learned, you'll be surprised. In the next 2 years, just keep a lookout. What quality of foreign universities will come to India? You will have in India, at least my view, at least 5 to 10 top 50 universities, at least 1 or 2 top, maybe 20, top 10 perhaps. We'll see. It's a long journey for universities. And look, when they set up a campus, they're not thinking 10 years, they're thinking 50 years. If you look at this university, Harvard, it started in 60, I should know, but somewhere there. Take Aberdeen, University of Aberdeen, which is coming to Mumbai, started in 1495. It's 525 years old. Right? So they think about campuses also in a very long-term view, etc. So it takes time, but give it 2 years, you'll be surprised what quality of universities will come. Look, India is the most exciting place to be for a university also. Our talent pool, you take some of the smartest researchers in the US, they're Indians, UK maybe, right? So I've always felt that why I'm such a big fan of this is that our Indian talent pool is super, super intelligent. They just need that guidance. And going abroad is great, but then they build abroad, they settle there, right? The IP is created there, right? They become faculty or professionals there. Should happen in India, right? Then we have the software to build for what we want to do, right? So this I think it'll take time. But yes, my advice to my kids would be, unless they get into Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, MIT, or Oxford, Cambridge, or something like that, you might as well study in India.
So basically, you are partnering with these 7 foreign universities and you are setting up those campuses in India, as far as I assume,
we
right?
are a partner for them. Academics is completely theirs. So it is their curriculum, it is their degree, it is their supervision, everything. But on the India side of it, for example, recruiting students, placements, real estate, or tech stack for India, those are places that we advise them. Similarly, in terms of which courses to offer, what works in India, etc. Price point. My biggest job, I feel, is always say lower the price. Right? Now, when we say lower the price point, also we have to do it on a way that is fits with their strategy. So it'll be scholarship based, need based, and merit based. These 7 universities we're working with, Kushal, the next 5 years, their budget for scholarship is 1,000 crores in India. And I'll take some credit as the partner of theirs is from Eruditus, because we've told them very clearly, see, India is still a country where I want this to be an access to high quality education for as many Indians as possible, right? Even today, a 10 lakh fee is quite high. But if you have to deliver quality, see, very often people will ask me, you're charging 10 lakhs, but some other university is charging 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs. But quality care. Let's compare apples to apples. This degree that you're getting from, say, a Bristol or a York or a Aberdeen is being delivered at 35 to 40 lakhs a year in the UK. We're giving it at 1/3 the fee, but saying it's the same quality. So how do we make that happen? So that's the innovation in what Eruditus brings to these foreign universities. But that's also access. And by the way, part of the scholarships, I'll give an example of University of Bristol. They have tied up with the chief ministers. So it's called the Maharashtra Chief Minister's Scholarship Program. 10 students from the state of Maharashtra will get a full 100% scholarship for 3 years. The value of that is about 30, 40 lakhs. But they will be selected by the government from government schools.
Oh, wow. And how will they be selected?
Merit-based and need-based, not on any other basis. Right? So there's a joint committee with Bristol and the Chief Minister's office who will select these 10 students. From the Chief Minister's side, they said these 10 students in the 3-year undergrad, we will give them an internship in the Chief Minister's office. So exposure to, this is path breaking. Right? Now you might say, oh, wow, it's great. But Bristol, by the way, has the same thing in the city of Bristol. So they were very keen to do this in Mumbai and the government was very supportive, right? So these are the kind of things for me, I feel very excited because this is a way of us giving back, right? Education, EdTech, while yes, we may be a private company, but we absolutely want to build that ecosystem for talent pool creation, etc., and make it affordable. Like I always I mentioned, and you know this, our mission is to make high quality education accessible and affordable. So the scholarship thing is very, very important, right? And I think that is something that we've already operationalized. So Bristol is, for example, giving a 5 lakh scholarship for the first class. Aberdeen, all of these universities, Aberdeen has a 2 lakh pioneering scholarship in the first batch. Illinois Tech is offering up to a 5 lakh scholarship. Of course, you have to apply for it. You have to be meritorious. In some cases, need based. There's an interview process. But this is something that is now available in India.
So you are basically helping these 7 universities set up their campuses in India. So just curious to know, what usually is the cost of setting up one entire university? How much does it cost?
It varies a lot. It
Hmm.
varies a lot. See, I'll keep land outside because land cost will change it completely. But these universities, look, first of all, every one of these universities is a not-for-profit university, right? You take, for example, say University of Liverpool. It's created by a royal charter. Aberdeen was very, 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 very royal charter in 1495, right? Royalty existed at that time. Even University of New South Wales is created by the state of New South Wales. So they are all not-for-profit. But at the same time, the reason they're coming to India, obviously, they have to engage with students in India, very long term view. So they will probably break even, make money year 7, 8, 10, but most likely that will go back into scholarships or research and those kind of things, right? So the capex on this varies anywhere from say 200 to 500 crores per university. But again, keep in mind it's over a period of time.
Yeah. And this excludes the land cost.
Excludes land costs. Right now, they will all start on a rental basis. And so sometime in the future, see, also, while phase one, they will start out in a city center. Eventually, they are used to campuses that have faculty housing, student housing, athletics, large open areas, because that environment is conducive for academic thought and research. But that will come 5, 6 years later, because today that's too much of a investment to be making.
So which are these 7 universities who you have partnered with? What is the total cost for the undergrad for all these 7 universities? And what is the average package which someone can expect after graduating from these universities? Can you break it down for us?
Sure. So look, let's start city-wise. So in Mumbai, we have the University of Aberdeen. Their undergrad is 4 years because it is the Scottish system from Scotland. So you can finish that in about 35 to 40 lakhs. That's the tuition fee. Then, of course, with scholarships, it can be even lower. Then you have the University of York, ranked about 129th in the world. There also, there is a 3-year undergrad. So you can finish at about 30 lakhs, that 3-year undergrad. Bristol, 3-year undergrad, it's a little higher. It's a top 50 university. You can probably finish at about 40 lakhs. Okay, so these are the three UK ones. And then, of course, in Mumbai, we have Illinois Tech, which is about 60 lakhs before scholarship, post scholarship, 40 lakhs. It's a 4-year undergrad program, but up to 1 year you can do in the US in the home campus. If I go to Bangalore, we have the University of Liverpool. 3 years you can finish undergrad at about 30 lakhs. UNSW, University of New South Wales from Australia, also in Bengaluru. Also, it's about 30 to 32 lakhs. That's a top 20 university, by the way. UNSW, QS ranking top 20 in the world. So today in India, that is the highest ranked university. And then in NCR, you have Victoria University, where I think there the fee is actually lower. It's about 8 lakhs net of scholarship. So you can finish a 3-year degree at about
8 lakh for 3 years?
No, 8 lakhs. So per year, so 3 years, about 24 lakhs net of scholarship. See, University of Victoria has a very interesting approach. For them, even in Melbourne, their main campus, 40% of the students are first generation college goers. So they have wantingly kept that fee very, very accessible. So that India also, they want at least 40 to 60% to be first time college goers. So just imagine 8 lakhs per year for a foreign university degree. I mean, that's what we are seeing in India. And by the way, if you are meritorious and you get some of the scholarships, you can even get it at a lower fee. I'm saying on average, what it'll be. Now, starting salaries, you asked me a good question. Today, they are just enrolling for the first batch. So September 2026 will be the first batch. So anything I tell you about starting salaries will be speculation, right? But my sense is there are two kinds of students here. One who will start and finish in India. Some who will start in India and finish on the home campus. If you decide to go abroad, if you get a job after you finish, etc., your starting salary will be based on the UK. That we have data. The average starting salary for, say, Illinois Tech, etc. Illinois Tech is ranked number 1 for employment in the state of Illinois. That is about 80,000 pounds. So it's about $80,000. So it's about 72 lakhs. starting salary if you did your undergrad if you
Wow.
transfer to the US.
So an undergrad can get a salary of 72 lakhs rupees.
If you
as well.
transfer to the US
Yeah.
with Illinois Tech. Similarly, for UK universities, it's about 60 lakhs if you transferred there and got a job. Now, remember, you're spending 30 lakhs to do this degree, and of course, the transfer fee. But if you were to start in India, my sense is that the starting salary will be about 15 to 25 lakhs, depending upon the discipline. In computer science and AI, you're probably going to be more closer to 25 to 30 lakhs. In some of the other disciplines like creative industries, game design, maybe closer to 15 to 20 lakhs. That's perhaps but we don't have data.
Yeah.
And so, 3 years from now, we will have the actual data.
Sure, that's valid. How does this compare with the average salaries that people get at, let's say, BITS Pilani or an IIT or an Ashoka?
Great question. In fact, I have an ROI calculator of how important the starting salary of your first job is. So if we have time, we can talk about it.
Yeah,
See,
sure.
Ashoka starting salary is about 12 lakhs. Their fee is about 10 lakhs tuition plus hostel fees, whatever. But tuition I'll take. So it's about a 30 lakh degree, 3 years. Most of their degrees are liberal arts, right? Versus most of what the foreign universities are teaching is STEM and business. So computer science, AI, biomedical sciences, little bit of economics and data science, and business MBA. This is what most of the foreign universities are teaching. So the topic areas are different. If you come to, so I would actually say that the ROI of a foreign university, I would suspect would be way higher than where an Ashoka is, because just the nature of what. See, I'll share data with you. And you can see that even in an IIT, very often people say that, look, the IIT starting salary is so much, but it depends on the discipline and depends on the IIT.
Yeah.
I think even if you look at the IITs, right, it depends on what stream you're actually graduating from. In fact, there's very good work that Career 360 Maheshwar Peri has put in that. So you take the average of, say, the IITs. Computer science starting salary is about 22 lakhs. But take civil or mechanical engineering, it'll be about half of that, about 10 lakhs, 11 lakhs. So, and by the way, even in computer science, obviously there's a higher and a lower, but the average is still very good. The good news is the foreign universities, the courses that they're teaching are very industry oriented. It's computer science, it's AI, etc. So your starting salary, that's why I'm saying my expectation is that they'll be higher than an Ashoka, potentially closer to a BITS or even an IIT in terms of being 20 to 30 lakhs range, because the topics that they're teaching are also very industry aligned. Second is, even within an IIT, by the way, there's a difference between an IIT Bombay, Delhi, and IIT Kanpur. So I can share data on IIT Kanpur and a Guwahati. So you have to look at that also in terms of because based on the rank, etc., reputation, the starting salaries are different. So my sense is that the foreign university, your ROI compared to, say, an Ashoka or other private universities is going to be higher, probably comparable to the better IITs because of the streams that they're teaching as well. The second thing that I would say also about this is, look, we have to think about ROI. ROI is very, very important for a student for your first job. And I know, I know you like to talk a lot about ROI, and every Indian student cares about this, right? So parents and students should think very deeply about where they go to college. If you start your career with a 15 lakh starting salary, and let's assume another student starts with a 20 lakh starting salary, and every year both of you get 12% increments. Do you know, Kushal, what is the difference in your overall compensation over a 20-year period?
So maybe, I don't know, I mean, 1 crore, probably 1.5 CR.
So the answer is about 3.6 crores. So just keep in mind, the difference between starting at 15 lakhs and 20 lakhs, just 5 lakhs difference, innocuous. People won't think about this. That 5 lakhs difference compounded over 12% is 3.6 crores over 20 years, right? Now, Kushal, this is one way to think about. So therefore, when you think about, am I going to Ashoka or some other university, etc., or a foreign university which can give me a higher ROI, higher placement? Yes, the foreign university cost may be slightly higher, but that extra cost ROI over 20 years, 10 years, however you do the math is easily justifiable, right? And so that's the first thing that people have to think about. Very often people think about just cost today, but cost is always linked to ROI. Okay. But the second thing that I will also say, just as a general advice to your listeners, is people should also think of education as a lifelong journey, right? Very often, again, in India, people say, okay, I did my degree, I got a job, I'm done. So we can also calculate, like, let's say one person does that. They do their degree, get a job, and they get a 12% increment for the next 12 years. But somebody else says, okay, at the end of say 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, I also go and do some upskilling. So fifth year, 10th year, 15th year, and I get a one-time hike of 30% every time I do that. It could be an EMBA, it could be an advanced management program for slightly senior levels. That difference in the salary over a 20-year period now is no longer 3.6 crores. It is nearly 9 to 10 crores. So
9
again,
to 10 CR.
same 12. So you start at the same level, same size CTC you start. You're growing 12%, but thrice in your career, year 5, year 10, year 15, you get a 30% jump versus 12%. Compounding of that increase over a 20-year period is about 9 to 10 crores. Right?
Wow.
So when people think about their careers, they have to think also about how they can upskill, reskill themselves so that they can get those increments at the right pace. Because see, today when you start your career, maybe you're starting with coding. But 5 years from now, 7 years from now, you have to be managing a team of coders. So your domain expertise is less relevant. Your leadership expertise is more relevant. In fact, one of the things a lot of the foreign universities teach, which is soft skills. And how do you manage people? How do you lead people even though they don't report to you? So influence without authority. Right? One of the things that I learned a lot at Harvard was negotiations. In fact, my professor Jim Subinius, another rock star. In fact, if you think about life, right? Every day you're negotiating. Right? Many times you're negotiating with yourself. Should I read this book? Should I watch IPL? Should I go to sleep? That's a joke. But life is a lot about negotiating. It's not, people think negotiating is buying a house. No. Today, for example, if I'm giving a message to my investors, I'm also sending a subtle message that may set it up nicely for my next board meeting, right? If I'm having a conversation, so some employee team member wants a hike, how do I have that conversation? How do I convince universities to come to India? It's a negotiation. It's a long-term negotiation, right? But I have no authority. I have to influence. So these skill sets become even more important as you go down your career. But we are never taught these in school or college. Foreign universities do, but in the Indian college, like in my CA days, a CA also has to negotiate, right? But we were never taught that specifically. We were taught a lot about accounts, law, taxation. We are experts in the domain. But as you become more senior in your career, you have to also have the all-round skills. Networking. If you remember, I told you career capital is intellectual capital plus brand capital, but social capital. Networking. Today's life, who you know is more important than what you know. Now, somebody will disagree. And the truth is, early in your career, what you know is very important. Because if you don't know that, you're not going to get your job. But as you go on later in your life, look, when you're a startup founder, you don't need to be the best coder. You must know how to hire the best coders. You know how to motivate them, how to retain them, how to reward them. You might not know, for example, I might not know the next new AI tool, but I have two people who I can call who can tell me. Right? How do you build networks? Today, I don't know how you do it, Kushal, but we do it accidentally. Right? But you can't be a leader by accident. If who you know is as important or more important than what you know, shouldn't every leader be building their networks actively? Tell me one school in India that teaches how to build your network.
I don't think so.
Take a startup founder. You think networking is important?
Yeah, of course.
See, when you want to hire your first bunch of employees, mostly they are people who you know, who trust you, because at that point of time, you have an idea. When you have to raise capital, if you write cold to a VC, they will not respond. You need somebody who can connect you to that VC. Right? When you want to meet other co-founders, then, look, if somebody wrote to me cold, I'm not responding. Right? But if I know somebody or somebody refers, I'm responding. So networking for founders, for business, in today's day and age, we all know it's so important. Why do we not teach it? So again, foreign universities do teach it.
How do you network?
How do I network with people? There has to be common interests, right? So for example, the best way somebody can strike a conversation with me is to talk about cricket or Formula One, something else. If I have 10 people that I'm meeting and one or two talk about an interest of mine, I will remember that name. When they write me an email, I will respond. But if somebody writes me an email saying, Ashwin, I need a job in your company, I'm not responding. So the spirit of reciprocity. Instead, somebody says, Ashwin, I have learned that there is this one tool that can reduce marketing for an EdTech company. This. Can you connect me to somebody? Start there. Then after saying, hey, I spoke to this person, had a good conversation. Give me 5 minutes. I want to explain this to you. I might give time, right? So reciprocity. So by the way, there's a science to networking. There's something known as close ties, which is called strong ties and weak ties. Very often, early in your career, you have strong ties, which is all people you work with that's related to your task. It's your team, it's your function. Very good early in your career. By the way, an entrepreneur needs to have many, many, many ties, sometimes weak ties. Somebody I speak to only once in a year. Because strong ties, close friends, who I can call at 3 a.m., they're very good to have, but they take a lot of time to build. Right? They don't give me new information. They're in my circle. Part of networking is information. Right? So if I have a weak tie, like some president of some university says, hey, you know what, that university has in a conference, they're looking at India for a campus, talk to them. Can you connect me? Yes. I don't talk to that president twice a week. I talk to them maybe once in a year. That's a weak tie, but they have information. Right? Your networks, by the way, also give you influence and authority. So I can get information. Information is power. I know something here is going to happen. I can pass that information on to somebody else, or somebody else thinks I'm very knowledgeable. Right? So again, I'm going on one topic, networking, but I can say the same thing about negotiations. There is a science to negotiations. There's a book that Jim Sibinius has written called 3D Negotiation. Right? So he says, for example, very often people think negotiation is, I'll stand here, I'll sound very angry, I'll switch off the AC in the room so you start sweating, so now you will get my deal. Those are tactics. That's not negotiation. Those are tactics. What is true negotiation? So if, let's say, I'm trying to buy a company, right? Even before I come to that meeting, like for example, I'm trying to buy the company, but I hold the meeting in my headquarters. Who has power? That company has now come to my headquarters. So where do you meet? Who do you meet with? Right? Maybe in that meeting, I call a board member of mine to show interest. It signals certain things. So who do you meet? How do you set up that negotiation? It's not just what I say in that negotiation. Right? So look, again, my point, learning from the person who wrote the book. And see, Jim Sibinius has negotiated hostage crisis for the US government and stuff like that. When you learn from foreign faculty with that experience, see, today, 22 years later, Kushal, 22 years later, I still remember one. I don't remember the case. See, Harvard is full case. I don't remember that. But those principles have stayed. Why? Because those are so well elucidated, so distilled from so many years of experience. So again, coming back to foreign universities, many of these faculty have that worldview that they can then distill and give it to you in a nutshell, right? So that's the value, by the way, of true education.
So are these faculty going to come to India to teach all these students?
For all of the foreign universities, nearly 50% of the faculty will be foreign faculty who will come to India to teach.
And these are the same faculty who are teaching at the main university.
Most of them will be already teaching. They're coming here. They're of course hiring new faculty also, foreign faculty to come and teach here, and half the faculty will be from India as well, right? So I'm just saying, look, when we say education and we look at just the fee, but let's please also equate it to the quality. What is being taught? How it is being taught? See, that is equally important pedagogically, right? Everything is lecture or it is project-based, action learning oriented. Who are you learning with? See, today in the classroom, I mean, we have so many applications for these foreign universities that it's very, very exciting, right? Because the students and parents are finding value.
How many applications have you got?
So the class size for each university is about 150 to 200. So about 1,400 seats across 7 universities. We're already about 10,000 applications.
Oh, wow.
There are quite a few. So there is this one guy who's applied to University of Liverpool, who's represented India in golf and won some tournament in Scotland. He's 18 years, 17 years old. But not only that, he's also 90th percentile in his board exams. Right? There's this one lady who's actually finished her undergrad in the UK, I think either Imperial or Warwick. She's worked in Sri Lanka in saving sea turtles and has applied, I think, to the University of York for their master's program. So we have this very interesting profile. See, unlike, for example, the IITs in India or the IIMs, where they look at one standardized test, these universities are looking at all-round personalities. So, for example, I think Illinois Tech, which has a undergrad bachelor's in computer science, we have one student who's already published a research paper in computer science in Singapore. right? And who was applied to again 95th percentile, etc. Right. So there's some real exciting talent in terms of what they've done. We've had actually students who've done undergrad in Georgia Tech, Penn, Cambridge, who are now looking at coming at the India University campus for the master's programs, right? So very, very interesting profiles. About 20% of our applicants are coming from IB boards, but I would say about 50% are coming from CBSE, ICSE, and about 25% from state boards as well. So it's a vast diaspora. Um, about 35% are actually girls, which is very exciting, and I wish it's even higher. About 10% are actually international. So we've actually had a few people who are studying in the US. I gave an example of UK who now want to come and do their masters, or people have done Indian diaspora, for example, in the US who want to come here for their undergrad. So very interesting profile, but that's a very all-round profile. It's not pure, just one test. All of the universities nearly have a interview before they have, in fact, some cases multiple interviews before they make. And we're always asking the question. See, end of the day, once you become an alumnus of one of these universities, you represent the university in a sense, right? So, what unique thing have you done that tomorrow or what unique thing do you want to do? Either you've done something very special, or you aspire to do something special that tomorrow, as an alumnus, you will raise the brand of the university. If you look at all of these universities, like again, I take Harvard as an example. Today, Harvard in India is a very big brand because there are alumni who've done great things, right? And so, all of these institutions, when you look at brand capital, right, it's because the alumni have also gone and done some fantastic things. Take Liverpool. Liverpool has 6 or 8 Nobel laureates, right? So in the academic world, they're considered a very high brand because of those achievements of people at Liverpool. So the achievements of alumni is very, very important. So they're asking that question from the applicants. What have you already done beyond your classroom grades? Of course, that is a minimum that you need, right? Minimum 80%, 90%, whatever. Each university varies. But what other stuff have you achieved that you were not expected to? That when you become an alumnus of us, therefore we know that you have that leadership spark, that you will achieve great things.
So in this particular thing, one problem that people also will have, or a doubt they'll have, is that if they go to US, the international exposure even of the students is higher. So if I go for my undergrad in US, 40-50% of the batch or more will be US citizens, etc. But if they do it here, more majority of the students will be Indians. As you also said that 35% are girls and 10% are international students. So how do you tackle for this, where let's say if someone wants an international exposure, even in terms of the students and the type of people they meet, can they get here in these universities?
So look, like I said, each of these universities allows you the opportunity to go for 1 semester
Mm.
or 2 semesters to the home campus. So you will get that experience if you want that. If you want to transfer to the home campus, you can do that. By the way, most of these universities also allow their students from the home campus to come to India for a semester or two. It's called a semester
Yeah.
exchange. Now, year one, maybe it won't happen because they're still setting up. Kushal, the main thing, the most exciting thing here is that the India campus is teaching the exact same curriculum, same degree on the same calendar. So very easy for a student to go from here to there or from there to here, right? So that opportunity is available. Now, if somebody says they want all 4 years in the US, then you'll have to go to the
Yeah.
US. That you will not get it.
In your experience, do people who are outside India, are they willing to come to India and study from here?
See, today, foreign students in India is about 50,000. Mostly they come from Africa, Middle East, etc. But till today, we've not had foreign universities. So,
Mm.
what I can tell you is that all of these foreign universities are doing a semester exchange. The definition of semester exchange is a student from here, from India, can go to US, UK, or Australia, and a student from there can also come here. That's the
Mm.
semester exchange. Now, how many will come? Will it be year one, year two? That we have to see. But we do expect, just like that faculty are coming, the student. Look, India is an exciting place to be. And today, if you're with the University of York or University of Aberdeen or say Victoria University in Australia, you are curious about India. In fact, no, in this foreign university, the semester exchanges are very popular. People want to go abroad and get new experiences. And I think coming to India would be quite attractive. And coming to India with the same university that you're already in gives you the comfort also that the quality will not be substandard.
What's the most cool, or what's the most fascinating facility that a student can expect when they are a part of these universities? Something that'll just blow their mind.
Oh, so look, I don't know whether it'll blow the students' mind or not, but if you look at Liverpool and Bangalore, they are actually setting up a biomedical lab, right? Because one of the courses that they're teaching is biomedical science. And I know that they're importing equipment from all over the world. There's a wet lab, there's a dry lab. So it's going to be pretty interesting because through a lot of the research on biomedical and materials, a lot of inventions have happened at Liverpool as well. So student in India having access to that, I think is pretty cool.
What's a biomedical lab?
Okay, you're asking me stuff that's even beyond my full understanding. But biomedical research basically is you start looking at genes, you start looking at organisms, and you start seeing whether, for example, the new cancer therapy can come from some organism that actually attacks cancer, right? So that's a biomedical research approach. Of course, you can use drugs, etc., but using organisms or to kind of create materials or to create therapeutics, cures, etc., that's part of biomedical research. I'm not the expert. So I think that is very interesting. I give an example of Bristol. Bristol has an AI supercomputer, right? So if somebody is doing work on data science, computer science, the ability to have access to that, but being in Mumbai, I think that is phenomenal as well. Look, the other thing, now I don't know whether it's mind blowing or not. Many of these universities are actually in the heart of the city. So for students, say, I'm giving you all of this, but I don't know whether students will think of this as cool, right? An AI supercomputer, a biomedical lab. But if your campus is in Powai, in Mumbai, or in Whitefield, or Whitefield is where Liverpool is, or Manyata is in UNSW is in Manyata, or Victoria University is in Gurgaon, right? Outside where the Oberoi and Trident hotels are. You have a good life to lead beyond campus as well because you're in the heart of large cities versus campuses like some of the IITs are, I'm not saying it in a bad way, but in places where after 7 p.m. it's dead. I think if you're a 17-year-old, 18-year-old being part of that vibrant city life in a large city, we are seeing this, Kushal, that 60% of our applicants are from outside of that state. So clearly when you're in Mumbai, Bangalore, NCR, there's a lot of tier 2, tier 3 India that finds these cities also aspirational. So that I think is very, very exciting. And look, from a more academic perspective, the proximity to companies, right? So that, today a lot of Indian universities think of placement. You finish your 3 years or you finish your 2-year masters, and then you have a placement week. Placements no longer happen that way. You take Illinois Tech, they have a program called Elevate. Placement starts from day one. You start thinking about your personal brand, your resume from the first day of school. You have guest lecturers, industry coming in from week one, right? You have an industry advisory board. So, for example, Tech Jamshed Godrej is an alumnus, right? And that's why they're in the Godrej place in Vikhroli, right? And so, being in the center of the city allows you to leverage the companies, the internships, the industry speaker, that entire, building your network that I was talking about. That is also, in my opinion, very, very cool because obviously at the end of 3 years, at the end of 1 year, whether it's UG or PG, students will be saying, okay, what's my ROI? Where do I go?
And in terms of the most interesting subject out of all these 7 universities, is there one very interesting subject where you think, yeah, this is something which is the most interesting one, which is going to be taught to all these students, apart from the networking and apart from the ones that you already mentioned?
It'll vary from person to person. But of course, I can tell you, look, computer science, AI, data science, economics, business, these are the most popular ones. But the University of York, by the way, they have a very large investment in the creative industries. They have something called the A-Star Lab. They've spent 40 million pounds creating it. So they teaching a course called the Business of Creative Industries. The business that you're in a sense, but also film, but stuff around film, digital production. It doesn't have to be film. There are many other formats today that's there. I think it's the only, or maybe one of the few courses like that is available now in India. The Business of Creative Industries.
What do they teach exactly?
So if you are if you're a creator, if you are in a creative industry like etc., you can be a technician, you can be a director, producer, artist, but how do you make a business out of it? What are the different business models, right? So for example, a production house today, I was talking to one of their faculty on this. So today, for example, a lot of movies are being shot, not a green screen, but there's a new technology that you put and you can put the background onto that.
Yeah.
And so you don't even have to go outside of your studio to shoot a big budget movie. there are companies who are getting investment to build that technology. So that's
Mm.
an example of business of the creative industry. You're taking away
Yeah.
one problem for the creative industries and creating. Of course, see, if I look at traditional film, animation, etc., that you will understand. But this was an interesting example. This is not happening in India.
Mm.
It's happening at York in the UK. So see, the foreign universities, the real excitement is that you have access to these kind of new trends that are happening outside of India. But hopefully, we in India will learn, and that helps our ecosystem as well. So I found that course to be very interesting. Um, of course, biomedical sciences from Liverpool, though I don't understand it, it seems very cutting edge. Liverpool, through their biomedical and other programs, have actually come up with many cures for smallpox, for other things that they've deployed in Africa. That is interesting. Um, Liverpool also has a program on game design. Of course, today with India's gaming industry going through what it is what it is. But it's an interesting program. How do you create apps? How do you create games? A program just on game design. I don't know how many of our India's gaming companies have actually had curriculum designed for them. And then Bristol, University of Bristol, they have a program called the Masters in Immersive Arts. So it's about how do you create AR and VR. So they're building special computers and labs with AR, VR, etc. So these are some of the programs. And look, this is phase one, right? Each of these universities are starting with about 5 to 8 degrees. If I look 5, 10 years down the road, they'll have 30, 50 degrees, and you'll see
Yeah.
all kinds of exciting things.
So is there also an MBA with like a postgrad also happening in these universities?
Nearly all of them have an MBA. So, like I said, computer
Oh.
science, AI, data science, economics, MBA, this is though happening. But if I say MBA, you might not say it's schools, but MBA is happening. So, University of Victoria, so they have an MBA. York has an MBA. Liverpool has I think they call it a master's in accounts and finance. So it's like an MBA. Aberdeen has an MBA, 1 year MBA. So Illinois Tech has a 2 years MBA as well. Illinois Tech's MBA is very interesting because there, as part of your 2 year MBA, you can go to Illinois Tech, Chicago for a semester. But you can also work and count it towards credit. It's fascinating, right? So, a lot of people say MBA is theoretical. But no, you can be working. And to that extent that you have, whether it's a virtual internship or an actual internship, you might not need to do 1 or 2 courses.
And like, let's say if someone is doing an MBA from Illinois Tech, so you're saying that by sitting in India, a person can now do his offline MBA of 2 years by going at, let's say, the India campus of Illinois Tech and do the 2 year MBA. But my question is, what value would this MBA have? As you said in your previous answer, that if someone is doing an MBA from a tier 2 college, then there is no value in it. But someone is doing from, let's say, in Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, there's a value in it. So what value would this MBA have then?
So you're comparing with an MBA from Harvard, Wharton, or Stanford.
I'm just comparing it with MBA from, let's say, the best of the best B schools, even when it comes to India. So, like, let's compare the undergrad program with IITs and let's compare the PG with the IIMs. I want to understand your viewpoint in terms of who should go where and why is something like this more attractive as compared to an IIT or an IIM.
So look, I think so. If you say MBA, it's better I compare with an IIM or an ISB, etc. Look, many people will think about it differently, right? So one is for most of the MBAs at foreign universities, you will need 2 to 3 years of work experience. And fundamentally, therefore, you will be sitting and learning from a class that has some work experience. And I think that matters. At Harvard, for example, the minimum work experience was about 4 years. At INSEAD, it's 5 years. At Wharton, also, it's 3 to 4 years. Because, like, when you teach negotiations, if you've never done any negotiation in your life, how are you going to relate to it, right? So I think that's the first fundamental difference. Second is international curriculum versus Indian curriculum. Look, some of the IIMs like IIM A, B, C, they are very good. And honestly, if somebody gets into that and that's their goal, you should. But we have to keep in mind like 250,000 people write CAT, ABC, and a few others, Colicode, Indoor, etc. They hardly take 1.5%. So for the rest of them, where do they go? Right. I really like ISB, by the way, because it's a 1 year. It's not an MBA; it's a PGP program. But they ask for 3 years work experience, typically 2 to 3 years work experience. Right?
What's the difference between an MBA and a PGP program?
Look, ISB is not a university, so technically by UGC norms, whatever, they can't give a deal. So they give a postgraduate program in management, right? But end of the day, the ROI on that, the starting salary average is about 30, 33 lakhs. So people say, okay, that's great. I'll pay for it. It's a great experience. It's a great school. But the three founding institutions of ISB were Wharton, LBS, and Kellogg. So foreign universities came, helped support it. Of course, today, this year, I think they're celebrating their 25th year anniversary. ISB has done fantastic, honestly. I think of it as a really solid institution, just as some of the IMs also are fantastic. So if you have the luxury of choosing between these and a foreign university, then you have to look at choices. But for the vast majority of the 250,000 who write CAT, 200,000, 2 lakh students are not going to a great university, right? Because they might be 98th percentile, not 99, or some have reservation, or whatever. There are many, many reasons for that. So those people should look at options outside of that.
So any student who is watching this, what are the top 3 skills according to you they should learn today in 2026 so that they can also get a job in future?
So first of all, this idea that I learn skills today and I'll get a job in the future is a very outdated idea. You have to be learning skills every day, right? Or periodically updating yourself, right? But since you asked me the question, I'll indulge you. One is AI. Everybody will talk about AI. It's an area where even I feel I have to learn. In fact, I'm thinking of taking one of our own AI courses. No, but we have to, because the world is changing and the way we do some of our tasks is changing significantly. Even our learning world today, a lot of the simulations that we might have taken 3 months to write, today with AI, we can write in 2 weeks, right? So I think AI literacy is something that everybody has to. But the other two I'm going to focus on are something that I've spoken about. One is soft skills. See, so much of business, Kushal, is about actually getting it done, right? It's about you talk to somebody as a business partner, do they trust you? Do you communicate your idea with passion? Can you convince them of something even though they may be on the fence? Do you have good listening skills? Big problem in India. We all like to talk. How much do we really listen? How much can we interpret that behind what that person is saying?
Yeah.
All of these things are there.
Do you have a course on listening as well?
We have a course for everything. But we have a course on Wharton on executive presence, which talks about communicating, about listening. Because, see, the reason I'm saying this is that early in your career, you can get away without this. You can get away with domain-specific skill sets. But as you become more senior in life, the kind of challenges you have, the soft skills part is very, very important. Third thing I would say, which I've already said, is networking skills. Now, networking in India is always considered bad. He's a networker. She's a networker. It's a very bad thing. So don't think of it in a bad way and in fact, there's a whole notion that you go to a big conference and give your card out to everybody. That is not networking, right? That is actually nonsense. But the idea that who I know is equally important than what I know. See, today, after 5-6 years, how are jobs? How do people get jobs? It's all referred. It's a network job search. Today, if I'm hiring a CTO or a CFO, I'm not going to campus and hiring, right? Either there's a search firm, in which case the search firm better know of that person, or my HR is starting something. But the best candidate I hire is where, let's say I'm hiring a CFO, I tell my board, my investors, and they say, look, this guy or this lady, they're perfect, right? But that's networking. So that investor knows of somebody who's really good. So somebody is telling me that you're very good. And so already I'm feeling very good because I know a referral is far better than a cold search. Right? So building your social capital. This is something that I think every leader must build. See, for me, I give my example. I'm in the education space. It's if I map my network today, and every now and then I do, 80% of my network will be education.
Education as in like?
College president, study abroad consultant, EdTech founder, EdTech investor, 80%, which is okay for today. But I need to have 20-30% from outside the industry, because something may be happening in automotive that may change my life. Right? If you're only going to be drinking from that same little cup, right, your perspective on life is very limited. So networking is not just, hey, so we have this negative connotation. I want to debunk that. Networking is also a way for you to get more knowledge, get more information, get more perspective, right? And that is part of learning. So this concept is learning of only intellectual capital, right? Which is what I learn, what I know. I'm trying to move away from that and say, look, who you know is important because they bring you certain insights, which you see today. It's like this AI algorithm on your phone. You start reading one podcast, every podcast will start coming. So that is what a close network is. I'm only talking about people in the education industry. But so much innovation is happening outside. Some of the most greatest advances in AI are happening outside. I can learn and bring it to education. But if I'm not talking outside, then I'm just swimming in a small little pool, right? So three things: AI literacy, soft skills, which means a lot. Soft skills is a very broad thing, and then building your social capital. These are three skills that I think is every entrepreneur, business person, young adult, mid-level, senior level executive, all of us should keep thinking about.
So now, like you're running like India's largest tech company also, and what's the scale right now? The last time I was checking, it was at 3,500 crores in revenue, right?
So we're about 4,500 crores this fiscal. We'll
Oh,
do
wow.
about 400 crores in EBITDA.
Lovely.
Um, but we still feel we're just started and there's lots to do. We don't only measure our success by those numbers. We also touch the lives of about 2.5 lakh students every year. We work with 90 universities globally. Uh, our NPS is about 50. And in the online world, what we do a lot of courses online. Today, they are getting review ratings similar to those courses that are delivered offline. So I think one of our biggest contributions so far has been that we moved the needle on online in terms of being able to deliver efficacious online learning. Our next phase, Kushal, is while we're going to do all of that, and by the way, now AI is a big part of our portfolio, working with Stanford and MIT and Michigan and Cambridge, creating AI because it's a education is a nice thing because it feels like you're giving back. So that is a big part of what we're doing. But in this phase, for the next 5 to 10 years, bringing these top foreign universities to India, teaching courses that are relevant to India, making access possible in India. I'm waiting for the day when these students will graduate and go on to do great things, right? And I can say that, okay, maybe 0.5% of that credit somewhere Eruditus had to play. That would be meaning and fulfillment in my life. So that's the next phase that I'm very excited about.
And the valuation was $3.2 billion.
Yes,
So and this was as of 2020,
21.
2020.
We haven't raised a round post that.
Okay. But I think you're one of the only edtech unicorns which must be profitable, right? Because I've not seen other edtech being profitable, right?
Yeah, let them comment for themselves.
Right. And in this, like your entire journey of like even raising capital and building this entire edtech company which you've done. So what was the most challenging phase? And was there a time when you thought that, okay, now this is not working like us, and there's like some decision you took which was like the turning point for this?
So look, there were 2, 3 times when we were very close to running out of cash. The first 7 years, Kushal. So 2010 we started till 2017. We didn't raise a round. And we said, look, we'd rather be independent. We want to build how we want. In my first startup, I didn't have the best experience with investors. So I said, I don't want any investors. But in 2015, 2016, we went online. And for online, you need to raise capital because you have to invest in the tech, the content creation, and it was global. So we debated a lot. It was a very pivotal moment for us. So my co-founder Chaitanya and I, we said, okay, if we really want to scale our ambition of reaching, lakhs and millions of students, then yes, we'll have to take capital. So that was a big moment for us. But in that journey, those first 7 years, there were many times when we were very close to going out of business because we didn't have cash. But that, honestly, what is so great about it? Every entrepreneur goes through this. You probably have gone through this yourself. Right? Every entrepreneur goes through this. We survive, we learn, and then very often we don't make the same mistake, but sometimes we make the same mistakes also. So that has been one part of our struggles. The other part, I would say that look, during COVID, initially when COVID started in 2020 March, we actually had a term sheet from SoftBank to raise capital, and then COVID happened, and for whatever reason, I mean, I don't blame them. The world was so volatile; they walked away. We had about 2 months of cash left, right? Because we were hoping that this would happen. Maybe it was 3 months of cash. So again, tighten the belts, struggle, da da da. And about 6 months later, we raised capital from Process and Leads and Chan Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg, Priscilla Zuckerberg's fund. So all good things happen. But there are those moments where you feel, oh my God, what's happening? And by that time, we were a team of about 500, 600 people. So you feel very responsible for that team. But ठीक है, बाद में SoftBank also invested, and so we all ended well. There have been many such incidents. Sometimes we lose top talent. Um, you feel bad about it, but then it's a journey. See, we've been in business for 16 years, so some of these are expected.
And how big is your team now?
We're about 2,000 people. 1,400 in India, or 200 people in the US. We have teams in Latin America, Singapore, Australia, UK, Europe. So we're fairly globally dispersed.
Wow. In 2022 or 2023, like edtech was considered as a bad word in the sense that anyone who used to start in edtech either used to like they used to shut down, or they used to basically have a very high CAC, and they used to spend a lot on performance, and they didn't used to survive. What had happened exactly, and why was edtech considered something like a negative industry back in those days?
See, two, three things happened, right? So one is in 2020, 21 during COVID, suddenly the whole world started learning online from K-12 to test prep to higher ed. So investors also put a lot of money in companies because they thought this is the future. Founders raised a lot of money, and then they started doing many things that they shouldn't have done. Post 22, say 23, 24, when the dust settled and people actually said, what is your revenue? The revenue has grown, but your losses were so high because you were pumping money into marketing, acquisition. In the case of test prep, they were hiring teachers at absorbent prices, etc. By 23, 24, people were saying funding had also reduced significantly in the space because growth was not happening. Then people started asking the question that they should have asked in 2020 also, which is what is the business model? What is the profitability? Today in India, more and more startups are looking at exits by going public, right? So it's a very good thing, by the way, because public markets put a level of scrutiny and discipline on you that private investors don't necessarily. So today, even more, the capital for late stage edtech companies is mostly going to come from public markets through an IPO. The questions there are definitely going to be on how sustainable is your growth, what is your unit economics, what is your profitability, what is your moat. Can I underwrite a 5-year CAGR of 20-25%? So then the weak business models will fall apart and the good ones will survive. But my view also, Kushal, look, this happens to every industry. Take airlines. It'll happen to airlines also, right? It'll happen to in some cases to banks, to telecom companies, handset makers. It'll happen to any business.
Mhm.
EdTech, of course, yes. I'm in that space, so I hear more about it. You kind of are in that space and follow it a lot, so we hear more about it. So it's kind of expected. Higher education, where we operate, has been less affected. Test prep also, I would say, less affected, and some companies have done well. But K-12 has been affected a lot because now after COVID, parents were very clear, I don't want my kid learning on a device. So that has gone back significantly to classroom. Plus, there were one or two players there who had a lot of negative press, etc. So that space is still recovering, I would say.
When do you plan to go for IPO?
No such plans. I mean, at some stage, an IPO will happen because we have a size and a scale that makes sense. Plus, we have investors and team members who would benefit from that. But look, I think we are profitable, so we don't need to raise capital to grow. Whatever investments we need to make, we have capital for that. So let's see, sometime in the near future.
Amazing. Very interesting conversation. Learned a lot. Last question that I ask all my guests. It's a tricky one. If you were in the shoes of Kushal Lodha and if you were interviewing Mr. Ashwin Damera, what is one question you would like to ask him towards the end?
Oh, I can answer this in many different ways, but question is, how would you like to be remembered?
How would
Or
you
what
like
is
to be
legacy?
remembered?
I
What
know
is
you're going to ask me
legacy?
this back. Dude, I like to believe that I'm somebody because of what I have done in my life. A lot of other people's life has benefited significantly, right? I think through education, we are doing a lot of that. But one of the questions that I want to ask myself is, how do I amplify it even more? I would love to measure success as, very often people say unicorn founder, billionaire, ye sab. They're all nice to hear. I won't say nobody wants to hear it. They're nice to hear. But, if my real legacy is that, one day everybody's going to die, everybody's going to be gone. But on that day, how many people stand up and remember and say, "Hey, this person, no, he changed my life." If that number is a very large number, I think it's a life well lived.
I think you're already doing that through Eruditus and Emeritus in a way, right?
I don't know, maybe, but that number maybe is this, maybe it should be this or this. That's the goal. But hopefully, I mean, I do believe I'm doing some of it, but
Yeah.
that's really how I want to shape it. So a lot of what we do at work is about access. It's about affordability, even though it's premium. I do realize this is not solving the problem for the man on the street, but maybe someday we'll get there.
What's the highest selling online course on your platform? What is the topic?
Right now, it's AI.
Okay.
We have courses from MIT and Stanford on AI that are doing really, really well.
And what are usually the prices of these courses?
So these are anywhere from, I would say, 1 lakh to 1,50,000 rupees. These are 3-month courses, and you get a certificate from MIT or Stanford.
Wow. So basically, you've done this for the online thing, like what you're doing in the foreign university space. You've already done that in the online space
See,
in
what
the
we do in the
past, right?
online space also for mid-career and senior career professionals, we map out what are the skill gaps. So, for example, that MIT courses on agentic AI. And then we go to universities and create those courses because we want to solve those skill gaps, right? For individuals and for companies. And then obviously, when you do it right, and there's demand for it, right? So, in fact, the best courses you don't need to market because there is demand for it. And you're right, exactly that we're doing for these foreign campuses as well, right? So there's a reason why we're saying let's focus on STEM, business, because these are the most in demand skills in India today.
So I foresee a very high probability of Harvard and all these universities also coming in India, and you will be the pioneer in doing that in the future, I feel, for
I think
undergrad.
may, you never know. Will a Harvard, Stanford, MIT come to India? It's very difficult. See, universities are ecosystems. It's not just on building, and I have some people who are teaching and we have students. It's a whole ecosystem, that innovation ecosystem that happened because of Stanford and Berkeley or Harvard and MIT. Very difficult to replicate in other parts of the world. But who knows? I mean, today there is a Duke, NYU, that are in China, they're in the Middle East. There's a Carnegie Mellon in Qatar. Um, so you never know. And maybe they come in a full campus, maybe not. Maybe they teach 1 or 2 programs. Maybe they do a research center. So Harvard Business School has a India Research Center. So there are very many ways in which a university can participate, right? But yes, if a Harvard or a Stanford come to India, I mean, great for the country. And if I was a part of that, then that would be legacy.
What would be the cost of those post-grad courses in the universities? Similar
In
to
the foreign
undergrad?
universities,
Yeah.
1 year MBA maybe. So Aberdeen will be at about a 12 to 13 lakh MBA for 1 year.
That's
So
it.
very affordable. It's 1
Okay.
year. Whereas, somebody like a Bristol, maybe 15, 16 lakhs after a scholarship. 2-year MBA, of course, you have to multiply it into. So Illinois Tech is a 2-year MBA. But the 1-year MBA from Aberdeen or a Victoria would be very affordable. It will be in the 10, 15, 14 lakhs range.
And what would the same cost be if they go to the university?
3-4 times that. About
Okay.
40, 50 lakhs.
Got it. Wow, interesting. Amazing conversation. I think I got to know a lot of things today and learned a lot. This is a very interesting concept. I really wish you the best for this, and I'm very positive about this outcome coming there in the education space, because this is the first time I think it's happening, right? You said there are 0 universities, foreign universities in India. So
First time, so 2026. We had one last year, University of Southampton, but this year there are about 7 or 8 that are starting. China has 60 foreign universities, so we should have at least that many.
Yeah. So I think I'm quite bullish on this thing which you're going to just execute, and wish you the best. If there's any help also from my side, I'd love to get involved in this. And this is something which is also one of my passion areas, but I'm sure this is going to be something which is going to be revolutionary. And I'm sure the question that you asked, how do you want to be remembered, as this might be one of the turning points where people are definitely going to be remembering you for bringing foreign universities in India. Thank you so much for doing this. I had an amazing time and wish you the best.
Thank you, Kushal. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. अगर आपको ये वीडियो पसंद आया होगा तो I'll request you to share it with all your friends and subscribe to our channel so that we can give you more value additive content in the shortest amount of time. हमको ये बताइए कि आपको कौन से kind of guest चाहिए, हमको ये बताइए कि कौन से questions मुझे नहीं पूछने चाहिए थे, कौन से questions मुझे और पूछने चाहिए थे ताकि आपको और ज़्यादा value मिल सके, और कौन से ऐसे parts हैं जो आपको बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं आए ताकि हम लोग ये parts trim कर सके future episodes में. So thank you so much once again for watching this episode, and keep sharing all our episodes with your friends and keep giving us feedback so that we can improve and come up with better quality content.